When I think about smartphones, especially from a few years ago, they were pretty fragile devices. You could drop them from a fairly low height and the screen would shatter and they'd be useless. Where are we today?
Historically, smartphones were very fragile. You did have to look after them, and they would typically just be in office environments. But over the last few years, they've got stronger, particularly around the screen, which is why you don't see so many cracked screens today. And also, one recent innovation has been to make them water resistant, so you can use them in the bath or in the shower. And also, by being water resistant, they tend to be dust proof too.
Now, that sounds like getting to be a pretty rugged device. I know there's already a market for rugged devices out there in the field. It's called field force. Are phones today strong enough, tough enough to go out there in the field?
Well, they're certainly getting there. So not necessarily for the most rugged of uses, so not on the most active of construction sites which are out there, but certainly for a lot of uses outside of the office. And for about $250, so say about $200 for the device and about $50 for the case, or even less, then you have a device which is good enough for rough usage.
But not, you couldn't fire it out of a cannon, but you could drop it on a floor. How big is that market, and how does that compare to the market for, I guess, existing ruggedized devices?
We're expecting that the market for this kind of consumer-led rugged device is going to be about 10 million units in 2014. So it's a pretty big number compared to the quite specialized market that is devices which are made rugged by default, which we think is about 5 million units per year. But we expect those markets will exist together with each other. So you still need to have the very rugged devices for some of the applications, but for less rough applications, then the consumer device plus the case should suffice. And it's also worth adding that one other protection that we don't often think about is behavior. So when people have a device which they like, and consumer devices tend to be better designed, tend to be more attractive, and also have things like cameras and social network access that rugged devices may not have. So when you do that, people may be inclined to look after them more. So that's an additional layer of protection as well as a rugged case.
I guess that at the end of the day, what we're looking at is an expansion of the market. People could go out and install a field force application, and because it's a lower price point, it doesn't have to go through quite the extensive business case planning process that you would for a more expensive and device that needed to be customized.
So when we're talking about $250 devices as opposed to $1,000 devices, then you may not even need to make a case. You could just have someone at departmental level go out and buy the devices from the nearest store. And when it comes to software, you can now get some software available via app stores and on a software as a service basis, so only charged for per usage. So there's a lot more flexibility in the market, which is why we see it as an expansion of the market rather than the replacement of the existing market with the lower cost device.